Hi, and hi again for those who were in the last session. Thanks for toughing it out. So we're going to be talking about responsible transcription and text markup practices to enhance accessibility for people who use screen readers. I'm Victoria, Bern, we covered, and hopefully, okay. We're going to be talking about an early career grant at the University of Maryland College of Information. It's called Crowdsourced Data Accuracy, Accessibility, and Authority, or CADA, CDAAA, which basis told me not to call it CADA, but there you go. So this QR code will take you to our GitHub, and we'll be putting an accessible version of our slides, the slides we're using today, on there. And this IMLS funded early career grant is an effort to try to identify some of the socio-technical barriers that LAMs, libraries, archives, museums face in making crowdsourced transcriptions accessible, not only to sighted users, but to people who are print disabled specifically. We've done testing with blind and low vision users who use assistive technologies to access digital text. And we have members of our advisory board and other partners in the room today. And I just want to say thank you all for taking part. So we have 3 key research questions. Today, we're just going to be focusing on some outcomes related to our third, which is around accessibility. So when transcription data is successfully integrated into a content management system of some kind or a database, is it accessible to people who are print disabled, blind, or have low vision, again, specifically? If not, what is required to make the data legible and discoverable? And what are print disabled users' experiences of searching for and reading transcription data? So it's both a usability and an accessibility study that we've been conducting. So our methods are giving tasks and prompts, task prompts and observations to each user. So we had 12 participants, which doesn't sound like a very big number, but these are sort of like 2-hour-ish long testing sessions, and each person looked at 3 different systems. So every system, the 9 of our partners who had gotten crowdsourced transcription data, some were public. Each of those systems was tested 4 times. We worked remotely with our participants, and they used their own assistive technology. So, they were able to be in the flow of their usual assistive device and laptop setup. We did everything over Zoom. And we had 11 participants who tried a 1-page accessible excerpt of the Ada Blackjack diary, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today.
For the Ada Blackjack diary, Ada Blackjack in Neopet, and she's the sole survivor of the Wrangell Island expedition. And this is available online in the Dartmouth Library Digital Collections. So I have 1 page displayed on the screen, and I've highlighted a couple spots where there's some cross-throughs and some inserted text in the original handwriting. Next column shows how this is rendered on the Dartmouth Library webpage. And there were some problems with this that I investigated earlier, and some was that words of the line boundaries were fused for some screen reader users, so it just kind of read through right to the next line, and even read it as sort of tried to treat it as one word. And then these added and deleted indications were visual only. So you could see it, but there was no markup that was available to the screen reader to tell those people using screen readers that this additional markup. So we made some changes for accessibility reasons. There were headers in it originally, and people like that, so we retained that. There were some line breaks, and so we actually put in real HTML line breaks. Originally, it was done through a span. There were other spans that were deleted text. We just converted those to actual deleted tags that are available in HTML. And similarly with added text, there's an insertion tag that is available in HTML. And so we just a simple conversion between that, and we wanted to test that. So we had some responses to the current Dartmouth version. Participants in general really like being able to jump by headings. That's one thing that we found out many different systems is that if there was something long, really like to be able to jump to particular sections and not try and wade through the whole thing. People were confused about the particular convention. There was a lot of things that said unpaginated. Didn't know quite what that meant. And as I mentioned before, line breaks were read incorrectly for some participants. Some screeners did fine, some screeners didn't. One participant just said, some words are run together, some aren't. There doesn't seem to be a consistent pattern inside of the text because it was visible to that person through their screen reader. So we had people responding to the modified textual markup. 9 of the 10 screen reader users commented on the deleted and inserted text specifically. One person, the reason the one person didn't comment was because their screen reader was set in a mode that wouldn't read those by default. She switched to a different screen reader, said, oh, okay, it's telling me about deletions and insertions. It was interesting to see that many users read through edits character by character, like trying to make sense of exactly what was deleted, exactly what was. One person tried switching to Braille. The Braille device didn't quite give as much information as you could get through the spoken screen reader output. 3 people mentioned tracked changes as a metaphor. This would be track changes like in Microsoft Word. 3 people a priori thought that it was edits made by the transcribers. Again, maybe with this track changes as a metaphor. There were 2 people, though, who hypothesized that they were markings that were in the original manuscript, which was the case.
So I'm going to talk through a little bit about some of the qualitative feedback and responses that we got on a number of things, as well as some recommendations. Even though across the 11 people who tested this modified markup version didn't have access to an image or any kind of alternative text in this particular test, there were still mentions or comments about or the textuality and the materiality of the document, or at least what was sort of theorized or imagined. I can read through a few of the quotes that are also here on the screen that I think are kind of interesting. So some participants had this perception of like marginalia in handwritten text as being inaccessible. One user says when sighted people handwrite on the physical copy of a hard copy, it's also against accessibility. So this kind of known difficulty, known challenge coming into looking at physical material in a digital context like that. So differences in visual representations of the document and text. So someone who may have tested both this and a fuller test, saying that it's good to have a piece of information and that they want to have material information just because sighted people also have access to that, to those data. And then the last quote that we had here on materiality is that some users were only testing the markup version. And so this user said that visually you can see it's got some specific marker, different color. But when my screen reader is reading through, it didn't tell me there's anything special. So a complete change in experience of the textuality of the document because of relying on the screen reader based on how the data are represented. Some recommendations that we have, recommendations for accessible markup, including headings where it's possible, especially for longer texts, longer transcriptions, using semantic HTML markup where possible. Users responded saying that having headings makes it really easy to navigate, to jump to. Having marks this way is more helpful than the original format that was presented. And recommending some conventions, giving users context to decisions that were made, editorial choices, markup conventions, and maybe a link to the record either at the top or as or a link in the record at the top of the download. User said that if you want to be faithful to the text, that should be indicated and it's important. Without an explanation, it doesn't make sense. Some recommendations for descriptions, including material descriptions for digitized objects, add some contextualizing notes that help users navigate and develop a more informed navigation strategy knowing about the text.
Thanks. So I think we may have like a minute. Is that accurate? Yeah. So we have some resources up here on the slide deck. But I want to say, in case anybody is sitting in the room, like I would have been maybe 5 or 10 years ago, thinking that like, are there many blind early modernists or medievalists who are like struggling with this kind of problem? And we actually did not specifically go out trying to only engage with people who studied particular disciplines, but we did get a number of folks who like started out in English literature and were trying to use original language editions of Shakespeare. And they said this was just like a completely inaccessible experience of using a screen reader device or some other like transformative device on a print edition, like an art in Shakespeare is just, and that those sorts of like unnecessary barriers push people into other disciplines where they, all of our participants essentially were academics. We recruited them through the National Library for the Blind in Baltimore, but wound up getting a huge group of folks from all over the world in studying many different disciplines at different stages of their careers. And, we see, I mean, I guess in a way, I think we may lose people if we're not going to do this accessibility transformation work. And they're going to, a lot of people said, like, I can go do other things on the internet. I can go find other sources of information. But these, primary sources are rich, sometimes unique witnesses to particular things that we all care about. So if we want to like open the door, we need to do some remediation and other kinds of work. I'll leave it there.